Hi, and welcome to Sunraw Artist Homestead. My name is Syra. I'm going to take you on a food forest garden tour this evening and maybe a little bit of the south end plot as well. I have a few different sections of my garden and we're just going to tour the food forest area. So I'm in a zone 5A, but I do have kind of a microclimate area here, so it may be a bit more protected. So let's get going. I'll show you what I'm growing. So we have an Anjou pear tree and guild, big strawberry hydrangea, and some rhubarb and flags, lemon balm. We have a Hugelkultur. These two trees are kind of connected with a Hugelkultur berm. That's the early Italian plum. And we've planted out lettuce, cauliflower, pink celery, and snap peas here. Some volunteer sunflowers I can tie up on the fence there. We have a blueberry here. So under our Italian plum, we have the rhubarb, stilbies, flags, and rhubarb is a great chop and drop plant if you're not eating it. Just break the leaves off. They're so large, that's a small one there. They really damp out the weeds and provide a layer of mulch, keep some moisture in. It's a great plant to have for chop and drop under your trees. Stilbies. Oh, these are loganberries in here. Been propagating these as well. So I got a rock on that branch to try and root some more, and I did just stick some in the ground in the spring and they rooted. So that one right there. Some tomatillos planted in here, some more rhubarb. Raised garden beds of onions in here, some large beets, golden beets, some transplants. Fennel's looking good. Ready to harvest some. I have a small donut peach and guild here. Licorice plant. Happy that it came back this year. It's supposed to be a zone 6, but it had no problem coming back. Much celery and pickling cukes. Actually, I thought were a long English variety when I planted them, but turns out they were pickling. So in that case, I decided to plant some more squash and butternut squash in between here. So I'm already getting some pickling cukes out of here, and then the squash will take over eventually. Some more fennel here, some scapes here. You snap these off and eat them, saute them, or you can pickle them. They're really good. Liatris, started all these from seed. Got some red hot poker and some penstemon wedding bells. Some more here. Perennial bellflowers. The greenhouse got peppers in there and stuff. Mostly a pepper greenhouse. I'm gonna circle around the food forest. So our snap peas doing pretty well, just coming along. And this Hugelkultur berm here, don't have too much planted in here. There's a few hydrangeas and there was some rhubarb, still building it up a bit. But all these lilacs here kind of pull over this waterway here, look really beautiful. Earlier spring, they're blooming, really nice. They never last long enough though. We also have some blueberries that were just transplanted out. They're still trying to come around. They're a little bit yellow. Seems like this variety is having a bit harder time with the transplant. A lot of my other ones have greened up really nicely. I did take all the berries off of these ones, but I left a lot of them on the ones that are just taken off. So I planted this Hugelkultur in the spring with early broccoli and harvested a lot of the heads, and they did okay, not that large, but some on the other side did really well because there's a waterway here and I've got the pond just overflowing and trickling, and it fills up this spring runoff water channel that winds throughout the food forest. Some really nice broccolis, sized up nicely. Pretty much ready. Yeah, these headed up quite nice. These ones really great and dense. So there's 5 along here. That's a big one. So this water fills up. This is a spring water channel. It's keeping this pear tree and my peach and all the broccolis growing excellent. And the hostas and bleeding heart and flags and stilbies are just loving that water as well. So here we have a Flemish beauty pear and guild. Got dianthus and crystal peak. I do like to start a few different perennial flowers, and they just kind of accumulate over time. So I get them spread out through the property. The pear is fruiting this year. This is the first year. Well, it tried to make a couple last year, but nothing to this extent. There's quite a few on here. This is a red pear. Some delphiniums. And this is our peach tree and guild connected to a Hugelkultur berm. Comes down with the waterway. It's the first year. She put on a bunch of fruit. And I put all these support posts in here to kind of swirl the branches in a counterclockwise direction, kind of going up towards the sun. And so I've bent the branches around on these stakes, and it also holds them up really nicely for all the snow that we get here, and supports the branches for fruiting as well. So here we have kind of a large guild that I've interplanted with flowers and some tomatoes and peppers. We have an opata plum that did get quite damaged with the snow this year. It's one of the trees that got very damaged. I had a really large, wide arms on her, and they split off in the snow. Should have known better. I didn't put any support, so I had to cut her way back. She ripped a bunch of the branches, but it's coming back. Plums are really fast growers, very vigorous. We got some determinate tomatoes in the front here, and peppers that I still haven't tied up to these stakes. But they're doing okay. They're pretty stocky, determinate varieties, but they're kind of holding up all these beautiful painted daisies here. Really large parsnip in here, sand cherry. All the oriental perennial lilies are about to bloom. This is where the water comes through down this way. Feeds everything. Got more astilbes in here. A wild rose popped up. Some domestic daisies, large ones. A ton of little baby echinacea plants that have germinated in this waterway. Now that it's kind of dried up a bit, there's still enough moisture for things to germinate well. This is a black ice plum with a lot of echinacea planted at its base. And foxgloves that are self-seeded. I love foxgloves so much. They're so gorgeous. So hollyhock in there, volunteer, they get around. Oh, look at that, just noticed, one plum. I don't think I have an actual pollinator for this tree. I was thinking I might actually need to get another plum for this particular tree, but there's one that did get pollinated and fruiting. I just noticed that now. And we've got a black ice plum clone here, just stuck in the ground in spring. We'll see how she does, you know, on her own rootstock. Yeah, we got a mullein in here. I love to leave these here and there. They're so beautiful. They're kind of prehistoric looking or something. Good medicinal plant as well. Lots of echinacea. Some astilbes in there. We have a mountain ash tree in a container that's just grown right through, and so I've left her there. Some trolleus growing under here. It's pretty much a large orange buttercup. And I did top this mountain ash early spring, which I quite like the growth habit of it now. And it gave some more light to these beautiful roses right behind. There's also some more roses up there on the bank and a bench to sit in. Here's our two-tier pond, and there's a bunch of frogs in here, at least 5. You can see 4 legs on them already. And I did put a salamander that I found a couple days ago in this area as well. And I found a couple frogs around, you know, in the greenhouse, and one in the house actually that I rescued and put out in the pond area here. So I think it's going to be a plentiful year of frogs. I've seen quite a few already, and there's more coming in the pond here. As long as there isn't grass growing, I do go and pull that out. It's kind of wild. I don't mind it. It's just a lot of other garden to take care of. So nice fiddlehead fern. There's just enough shade here, and the rocks provide that dampness and shade kind of. And I guess this fern seed was in the soil all along, and these sprouted out a couple years ago. Some blackcap raspberries, wild variety. Here we have a 12-year-old blueberry and little guild. I know it's kind of supposed to take off the berries the first year. I don't know, I think it's doing all right. It's nice and green. Some of the other ones are putting up new growth already as well. So I did prune her and take some berries off, but we're leaving the other ones because they're, you know, 3/4 of the way there already. It's a beautiful rose in this area. And we have a Carhartt apple planted out with zucchini underneath for the guild. Harvested one already, and there's a whole bunch coming now. We have a newer tree here and guild. Planted some zooks in front. This is a Hargrand apricot, and I'm kind of sad because I decided to prune her this early spring, and they don't like being pruned much. It was actually flowering. I should have just left it alone, but I topped both the leads, and it really didn't like it. This was growing so awesome for 2 years, and now I think it'll bounce back, but it really didn't like being chopped at like that. I think if I plant another apricot, I'm just going to not really prune it, just let it just go kind of wild. I think may do better. Foxgloves. I moved that one there and it bloomed. So I call this the south end plot, and we're still working on it. We got some nice early corn producing here. Fava beans are up. Got a row of San Marzano type tomato planted with some peppers and romaine lettuce on the back here. Cucumbers are doing pretty well now. One's a Chinese variety and the other is a Italian. And some nice heads of romaine that are heading up already. Some celery. We do have another apricot back there. It's doing pretty well, but they're pretty slow growers. This is a big magnolia tree here. And I have a few things to plant out. I do still want to do these wicking towers and get a bunch of wood chips in here on this flat area. A bunch of rosemary to get out too still. And then our greenhouse just planted out yesterday. All these second cucumbers. So they're looking a bit straggly now, but they're gonna take off here. Some squash in this bin here. Yeah, the corn's looking really good. Our squashes are doing pretty well. They're just getting late, but yeah, we'll see. Hopefully they make it. Been taking real good care of them. They're definitely growing pretty fast now. They're starting to take off. At our bean towers, lima bean towers, lots of them are up. Oh yeah, and we also got the jasmine tobacco in here. Forgot to mention that. The fragrance is just unreal. They get fragrant in the evening about this time of day when they open up as well. And we got a nectarine, which bloomed profusely this spring, and then got peach curl or leaf curl. And it was pretty sad, knocked off most of the fruit, or the fruit sets. There is a few fruit on there. There might be 10 fruits or so, but that was kind of sad. But it's come back around now. I picked off all the leaves. And yeah, we got a nice little guild here with Liatrius and chamomile there, self-seeded, some zinnias and bee balm. Ooh, and that's a catnip. That's getting away. I leave them for a while and then I usually pull them or chop them before they start seeding. but they do kind of protect some plants. We have a little currant bed here actually. It's kind of getting overgrown by this monarda and strawberries. And a bean tower pole here, a bean teepee. And I scattered a bunch of poppy varieties in here that are just popping. They're just coming up. This is our king apple. Got fruit on her. So she's a triploid. She needs 2 other pollinators to set fruit, which usually isn't a problem. You know, if you have a food forest, you often have a few different apples, and oftentimes you have something that's in that flowering period that will pollinate. But a Fuji and a Honeycrisp are the ones that are good pollinators for the king apple. Actually, those 2 trees are not right in the food forest here. They're about 50, 60, 70 feet over that way. I just have some blackberries, 2 different varieties, satin and triple crown. Kind of do wish I did separate the varieties. I may still do that. They're still tagged. And I've been doing some clones with these guys just in the spring. European almonds they pulled out of the compost. I do have a few larger trees as well in my nursery. And some peas and lettuce and broccoli that was cut there, and some cilantro, stuff like that over there. There's our broccoli and cabbage bed. And earlier this morning, I just took all the side shoots that sized up really nicely. These are hybrids, but I gave them lots of water right after I picked the main head crop. That's like more than what was on there originally, like with just the main head. You can see that's where I cut the main head. And there's another baby there. So I think they have potential to come again. The dianthus is just really starting to bloom under my king apple tree here. Here we have a Shanshiki Asian pear. I love these. This is the more yellow looking one. There's also a brown skinned one. This is the more bright yellow one. These are great, especially when the frost comes. They get even sweeter. They store well for a pear. They're just nice and crispy. Yeah, we have a bunch of veggies here next to the little spring greenhouse. And there, nice rows. Some volunteer sunflowers in containers that I haven't planted out. They just self-seeded in the container that I had laying around. It's a sun gold or sun sugar cherry tomato tower. Got some beets that are sizing up very nicely. And these are some of my prize onions here. Kelsey, celeriac, and some Nicotiana alata, more jasmine tobacco, and peppers. These are brandywine tomatoes in here. Beet transplants, black crimson tomatoes in there. I got garlic in the pathway here. All right, thanks for coming along this food forest garden tour with me. I do have some other fruit trees and garden sections, but we'll leave that for another video. Hope you enjoyed the tour. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. It really helps push my videos around. And share the video as well if you can with a friend. We'll see you real soon on the next one.